Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Clara, and today I'm going to review for you one of the new NARS products for their 2018 spring collection. This year's spring I feel is all about light, bright pastels, and NARS has decided to jump on the bandwagon with their latest palette. You can see the outer packaging is this nice like metallic pink shine. This palette was $49 and each of the eyeshadows in here have 2 grams of product. There are 6 eyeshadows in here. Now I personally am a huge fan of NARS eyeshadows. I love their dual intensity. I love their hardwired. I have some of the singles. I really wish that they would continue making their palettes as dual intensity and hardwired, but they keep trying like new formulas. There are some things that might be really appealing to you and some things that you might have to kind of work with if you decide to get this palette. Inside you can see there's a large mirror, which is always really nice. And then I want to point out how many light shades are in here. I know some people were kind of surprised because it almost looks like a highlighting palette. This is actually an eyeshadow palette, but you could still use some of these powders for highlighting. NARS has really marketed this palette as being like very creamy and easy pigmentation and holographic, and I don't feel like this is their creamiest formula. I just have to be honest with you guys and say that. So let's quickly run through the colors in the order that I used them today, and I'll also show you how they apply on the eyes. So first I was looking for something for like a transition shade, and I thought I would grab this sort of pinkish champagne color on the top. It's actually much lighter than I expected. This is definitely more of like a brow bone highlight shade, so I did pull it up to my brow bone. But I do feel like this shadow is just a little bit grainy, so definitely I don't think it would stick on your eyes without a primer. Next I wanted to put a little bit of color on the lid, so I went in with this rose gold shade. It looks very intense in the pan, and I do really enjoy this color. It's kind of a coral pink with a very strong gold shimmer, and I do think it's very appropriate for spring. I was expecting it to be just slightly more pigmented. This is definitely a color that if you want it to really show up, you need to use your finger because it's not really going to stay on a brush. In the outer V of my eye, I put this purple shade. This purple shade, again, looks very intense in the pan. However, it doesn't really build up very well with a brush. This is another one that I think will be much more pigmented using your fingers. And again, like this kind of champagne shade, it does have a little bit of graininess to it, so I got just a little bit of fallout when I was trying to use a brush with the purple shade. Next, I thought I would go in with this yellow shade. This is one that actually looks lighter in the pan but is more intense on the eyes. I applied it right on the inner third of my eye, and it gives you just such a bright pop of yellow. I do think you get a lot of payoff from this color, although I did have to use my finger again to build this color up. And together I do think that this yellow pink purple combination is really beautiful. Next I wanted to brighten the inner V, so I took this kind of light shade. This is one that looks lighter in the pan as well. It does have a very strong kind of purple shift to it, so it's like white in one light and purple in another. It reminds me a little bit of their single eyeshadow in Cassiopeia, and this is one that actually does have a good pigment payoff. Again, I used my finger with this. I just kind of gave up using the brush with this palette. Lastly, I wanted to use this light lavender shade, again on my brow bone, just to kind of intensify the highlight a little bit, and I used my finger for this one. I do find that this light lavender shade is also just a little bit like chunky. I think you would get fallout if you used it with a brush. So overall with this palette, I would say that it gives you a really nice kind of bright, fun spring look. It's definitely colorful, but it's not like too in your face. It's kind of more muted and subtle colors. There were a couple things I did find a little bit strange with this palette. First, I think most of the colors do apply much better with a finger, and also I think it could have been a much more versatile palette if it included some more fun pops of color, because 3 out of the 6 shades are kind of highlighter shades. Lastly, I do think that the formula of this palette is not as good as the single eyeshadows. However, for the single eyeshadows, you do pay about $30 per eyeshadow, and this palette was $50 altogether. So overall, I'm enjoying the look that I got from this palette, but I don't think the quality is really what I've come to expect from the NARS eyeshadows. I think if you're really loving this kind of like simple, bright eye look, then you would still get a lot of use out of this palette and really enjoy it. But I don't think this is going to be for you if you were expecting something maybe a little bit more dramatic or a little bit more in like that gelée kind of texture. I hope that you all have enjoyed this review, and I hope that you will subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. I'll talk to you all again really soon. Bye guys!